If you're haunted and harassed by your own inner critic, if you've ever been curious about why hypnosis works so well, if you're a seasoned hypnotist, or if you suspect that the inner critic is actually hypnotizing you to hold back from reaching the greatness that you know deep down is inside you, lean in and get inspired to get out of your comfort zone and create your one precious life with purpose and intention. If you like this show, you'll love my powerful hypnosis audio, The Answer Room, because it gives you crystal clear guidance and direction and illuminates an ingenious way to make triumphant decisions, no matter how stuck you feel or how confused you were. This powerful hypnosis audio is my gift to you when you go to theimpostermonster.com. Again, that's theimpostermonster.com. Don't forget theimpostermonster.com. And yes, I'm done saying it. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. I'm Lori Hammond, and I'm truly grateful for you. Welcome, everyone. I am so grateful to be here with you today, and I am so grateful to be here with my guest, Michelle Pattenden, who goes by Shells. Shells is a UK hypnotherapist and master Reiki practitioner who is passionate about making therapy and healing accessible, easy, beautiful, and magical. She uses simple language and playful techniques that help children and adults feel curious and comfortable about exploring their anxieties and overcoming low self-esteem and negative mindsets. Shells, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here.
Will you just talk to me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what brought you to where you are today?
Okay, so I was trying to think about this morning, and the way that my mind works is sort of a little bit jumbled and chaotic. So trying to do a straight timeline was quite tricky for me. So I do apologize if I jump backwards and forwards. But ultimately, my business is called The Wonders of Wellness. It was called Fairy Heart Therapies. And the reason it was called Fairy Heart Therapies was because I was an artist for about 10 years, selling and teaching my artwork. And I sold a lot of fairy and fantasy designs. I ended up painting onto these wooden hearts, these little fairies, and they just became so well known and so popular. And when I started doing therapies, I wanted the people that followed me on my Facebook page for my artwork to know that it's still me doing the therapies. So I had Fairy Heart Therapies in the name. And so it was just a really natural progression. The reason that I started doing the therapies was because back years and years and years ago, 1996 maybe, I started working in mental health, and I literally fell into it. It was like an apprenticeship. I think I wanted to go and work in a nursery, and the only one they could give me was about 20 miles away, and I had a car that would only go in second gear, and I couldn't get myself there. So I took the next one, which was in a residential home for adults with mental health issues and learning difficulties. And they had mental health issues like schizophrenia and bipolar personality disorders. And that was really my first introduction to the workings of the mind. And I'll be quite honest with you, it scared the life out of me when I first started. I didn't know, I didn't have any knowledge of it at all. But within the first week or so, they always said the people that started working there, they survived a week and then they never saw them again, or they were in there for the long run. And I absolutely embraced it. And that became my vocation. So I never realized that was going to be the way that my life was going to progress. But everything I've done since then has come from those very first beginnings of working in this home with these amazing people that I got to know their personalities. But if you saw them in the street, they'd look very different and be judged. And you know, I felt very, very protective over them. And so that beginning, that interest in mental health, in the mind and the way that it works, always stayed with me. And a couple of things happened along the way in regards to creating a family of mine. It took me a very long time, 15 years in total, to actually get my 3 children through fertility treatment and adoption. And so that took up a great big part of my life, but also gave me the opportunity to attend loads of different courses and training in regards to attachment, how the mind works, trauma, drug addiction, you know, all of these different things that I didn't realize at the time how beneficial it would be. I just wanted to be a mum. But every single part of that I can now use. So I've been on, you know, even therapeutic parenting courses, all of these different things. And so when I adopted my son, my middle son, so I had my oldest child through fertility treatment. I then adopted a little boy who was born heroin dependent and had quite a few issues. I then just threw myself into the artwork, and it probably saved me, actually, just being able to create and be able to just step back from all of the chaos that was going on in our house. And I started teaching, selling, and then I started doing workshops with people with mental health issues. And that was amazing. So that I was able to just create a space for them where we were just upcycling things. We had no funding, we had no money, no budget, but we were finding things and making them pretty and creative, and I'd be taking photos of them, and the pleasure that people got out of that was just amazing, and they just felt really relaxed. And I loved creating this space in about an hour and a half, where it would just go quiet, and I would then get eye contact from somebody that would never give eye contact before, and just the things that they were able to create, they were so pleased with them, and it became more and more therapeutic. And I just wanted to do more, you know, and I just had that bug all the time. I just wanted, what can I do next? So my son went to school, and I had a little bit more free time on my hands, and I found Reiki. I say I found Reiki, Reiki found me. And I don't know if you ever speak to people that do healing or do Reiki, and they may have similar stories, but I was sat in bed one morning having a cup of tea, scrolling through Facebook, and somebody was advertising about a Reiki course, and there was one space, and I didn't even know what Reiki was then. I couldn't even pronounce it properly, but it looked really interesting. And I signed up and I paid, and I hadn't even got out of bed yet. I'm going to do this. It just called to me. And I was trying to describe, I went downstairs and told my husband, I've just signed up for a course and I don't even know what it is, but I just feel like I need to do it. So he was like, right, fine, another one of your ideas, just go for it. And the minute that I met the other people on the course, and I met Jules, who was teaching it, I just immediately felt like I was in the right place. And I love those moments where I can't even explain it. And it just felt like this was the way I was supposed to go. And we had a couple of different attunements. And the first attunement, I remember sitting in my garden, actually, and we had to do self-healing on ourselves for so many days. And I had this moment where it's almost like I saw two paths going ahead of me. And I'd always been one of these people that actually I always knew what I was going to do next. I was going to plan for my next child. We're going to get this house. We're going to do this, that, you know, I was a bit of a planner. And suddenly all of that just went out the window. And I thought, I have no idea where my life's going to take me, but I know I'm going off on a different path here. And it was scary as well, because it almost felt like I wasn't in control of it. It's like, this is going to happen, whether I like it or not, whether I know what I'm doing or not, but it's going to happen. And it was, I will always remember it. It's like something shifted within me. And whether it's just, you know, people call it an awakening or whatever it is, whatever happened, suddenly my life just started going down this whole different path of healing and, you know, of all of these different sort of modalities that I've been able to bring in. So I got the craze and the bug for learning. I became a little bit certificate mad. So, you know, I started doing, you know, learning about NLP and CBT and just all of these different things, and sort of adding it into my business. And when I first started doing the Reiki with people, it was so scary because a lot of people didn't know what Reiki was, and I had to explain it to them. Trying to explain Reiki and energy and healing in words is the most difficult thing to do, and I'm still not very good at it. I bumble my way through it, and I'm just get on the couch and feel it. Once you felt it, you know. Because no, I could spend an hour trying to explain it, and you still wouldn't be able to know until you really experience that energy. And so what I did is I set up this Facebook page to say, do you know what, everybody, I'm on this journey and I want you all to come with me. So you know, I'm learning Reiki, and I was just offering it to people for free, or very, very reduced. And then when I learned Indian head massage, it was like, come and have some of this, I want to practice. And I learned how to do Thai foot massage and healing facials and all of these different things. But every time I learned something new, I would open it out, so maybe like the first 5 people would get it for free. And it was a really good way of just being able to involve people in my journey, so everybody knew that I was learning a new thing, and they were just as excited as I was. You know, I'd be like, wow, next, you know, this is what I'm studying and this is what I'm going to be doing next, and everybody's like, yay, you know, book me in, I want to try out, I want to be your volunteer. So I got heap loads of experience just by being so excited about what I was doing. And then for a little while, I was juggling so many different things with doing artwork, the therapeutic artwork, doing the Reiki, and just sort of bouncing around the place really, and looking after my children as well. And I was just having a really good time, just seeing what can I learn next. And it got to the point where I was just like, you know, I did seriously think I was sort of certificate mad. And it was like, how far am I going to go with all of these courses and these certificates, you know, because there was still that thing inside me of like, when am I going to be there? When am I actually going to, you know, own it, I suppose. And I did an online course, which was a theory side of hypnotherapy, purely out of interest. I had about 6 courses going at the same time, and it was bonkers. It was my way of relaxation. Instead of reading a book, I was doing a course, and I just threw myself into it. Partly, I think, because raising my son, who has got so many complex needs, was so exhausting during the day. I almost found it refreshing to just go and delve into something else and learn about something. And then I broke my arm. I went ice skating and I broke my arm in 3 places. And I couldn't do Reiki, and I couldn't do massage, and I couldn't do anything. And it was with my right arm, so I couldn't even write. And so I remember going to the hospital, and the doctor saying, you're not going to be able to do any massage for about a year, because the breaks that I'd done had sort of up the bone. They were really quite nasty. And I was like, oh my goodness, I just felt like I'm just in the flow of things, and now it's all just going to crash down. But I'm not one to sit around. And I thought, what else can I do? And so with the theory hypnotherapy that I'd done, I'd enjoyed it, but it hadn't really set me up for doing it practical. You know, there wasn't that practical experience. So I found a local hypnotherapy school local to me, and I was able to arrange the childcare. It was like a military operation for me to go and attend and train with the school with a broken arm. And that was the beginning, really, of actually bringing this to life, you know, just going that one step further, because it's all very well doing the Reiki healing. And sometimes when I'm doing the Reiki, people really do have those moments and they're able to work through issues purely from that. But sometimes you open up stuff in people and they're looking to you to take them that bit further. And so that's what I needed to be able to do. And so by learning the practical, the theory, the NLP, the CBT, you know, all of those things, I was able to take them on such a wonderful journey of, you know, firstly experiencing a moment of peace and calm and healing, but then being able to talk about what they experienced and anything that had come up, and then what should we do with this now? You know, let's explore it a little bit more. So it just became a really nice way of being able to lead somebody to where they wanted to be. So I started working in the cabin in the bottom of my garden, and that imposter monster was sitting on me for quite a while, because I kept thinking, well, it's a cabin. It used to house 5 motorbikes. You know, how can I turn this where people will take me seriously and actually feel like they're coming and getting quality treatment? You know, yes, I could go and hire a room in a doctor's surgery, but my goodness, how much are people going to pay for that? You know, they're going to be paying for my lighting and, you know, all of my fees. They're not going to be paying for me, because it's all going to be going towards the bills. And I needed something that was just accessible for me, looking after my children as well. So we brought the cabin to life, kicked out the motorbikes, painted it all out, and I made it my own. And what happened was this energy was just building up in this cabin. It was a place where people could take their step into that cabin and forget about the outside world. Now, I'm on an estate and surrounded by 5 houses, but something quite magical happens when you step into the cabin. Everybody just forgets everything. And even I do, even though I'm working 10-hour days, that moment I would step into it, this feeling of calm would just come over me. And it was something that it wasn't even something that I'd made up. It was like everybody was saying about it. And so the cabin almost became bigger than me, which I was quite happy for it to be. It was like, come to the cabin, it all just happens in there. It's where the healing happens, where the magic happens. And so it just became a really wonderful place. And the word was getting around about, you can come, people can come to this cabin and they can sort through some stuff. And what I found was I live in the southwest of England and quite close to Glastonbury. We're not in a big city really, and I wanted to access people that wouldn't normally go for private therapy or wouldn't normally go to the doctors, or where they'd feel that this kind of therapy was out of reach for them. And I found that the people that I was targeting, and I've thought about this on how I could explain it, it was people, I suppose like me, that were so busy, they were pushing everything away. And sometimes they get to that point where they don't even know where they are anymore. They've lost their identity. They've been busy raising children for so many years. They've been busy trying to please everybody else. And at some point, they just feel really unhappy and life just feels really difficult. And I just wanted to create a space for them where they can just come and just forget about everything, all those expectations, all of that pressure of having to be the perfect mum, the perfect wife, working full time. And, and I had a lot of people that were struggling with their weight and had that really low self-esteem, that had issues from when they were back in school and they were still carrying it around with them, and they were getting to their 30s and 40s and thinking, why do I still feel like that 12-year-old girl? Why am I so upset about, what a friend just said to me and I can't get over it? I'm an adult, I'm a mum, why am I still dealing with this? And of course, we know, we're all living as our inner child. And it's not something that maybe people would go to the doctors about because they just feel silly, or they just feel like it's not important enough or not serious enough because they've always been putting other people first. So initially that was my clients that were coming, and whether they came for a massage, which then turned into something else, because I think it's sometimes easier for people to come in and say, oh, I'd love a massage, I'm really stressed. And so they know what to expect and they know what they're booking, but obviously you get more than that when you come and see me, when you get that healing and you get everything else coming out, and slowly somebody just opens up. And I almost imagine it like a flower blooming where it's just been closed in for so long and nobody can see its beauty. And then as you relax and you let go and that flower just starts blooming, not only can I see that beauty very, very clearly, but my aim is that they can see it. And, and if I can create that and create an experience for them where they can just look in the mirror and actually, feel that love for themselves, it's got a knock-on effect on everything else that they do. So it was going amazing, absolutely amazing in the cabin, and getting busier and busier and busier to the point where, oh my days, nobody saw me unless they booked an appointment in the cabin. And then in 2017, my middle son had a breakdown. He was 10 and his mental health really struggled because of his complex needs, and he needed a lot of care, and I needed to stop work. Basically, he couldn't go to school anymore, and we were fighting to get help for him. And another one of the reasons why I was training and what I was training in all the time as well was because I've been on a bit of a journey since my son was about 2 or 3, trying to get the right help for him, because we knew that he needed help, and there just wasn't anything there. The waiting lists were so long, and there's just a lack of resources in the UK. I don't know what it's like over there, but the lack of resources in trying to get, mental health, and also just the help for people with disabilities, as well. So I started training thinking, do you know what, if I can learn something to help my son, then all good. And so I've been running my business for a good number of years now, and we're still on the waiting list, would you believe? We've got so far, but we're still waiting. Still having assessments, and he's now 14. So there you go. But I used to do hypnotherapy with him every night to get him to sleep. So he went 4 months only sleeping 4 hours a night. And it was horrendous. But I always remember the moment I made the decision, I've got to shut my business down. And in one way it was very easy because obviously my children come first. But in another way, I had to cancel 46 clients.
Oh my goodness.
And it took me about 3 hours to individually write to each one of them and also recommend new therapists for them. And it was just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And I just felt like I was just completely having to shut down everything I'd built up. So I stopped work for about 10 months and got my son into another school, and it was all going well. And I sort of tentatively opened the cabin back up again, and almost feeling like I've got to start all over again now. You know, I can't even remember what to do. Because you change as a person as well, going through all of these different things. And yeah, it was almost like I felt like I needed more training, like more certificates. I ended up getting certificates in gastric band, past life regression, rapid hypnosis, back on that training game again. And it all started going really, really well. Again, loving the cabin, and that has been going on really well for a couple of years. And I suppose in a way I was really lucky because my husband had a full-time job. He brought in, you know, the predominant of the money, so I was allowed to be able to sort of play about with different things, different ideas, but the focus on how much I earned wasn't really, you know, at the priority. That changed again in 2019, where my son was experiencing extreme anxiety, acute anxiety. And unfortunately, because of the issues that he had when he was born, and he was born withdrawing, his body just doesn't know how to regulate anxiety, and it was really affecting him. And he got signed off from school, and we had no idea when he was going to go back. We had to find a new school, a specialized school for him this time. And I just broke down. I said to my husband, I was like, I can't do it again. I can't shut down my business again and just shut all my clients down again. And I just didn't feel like I had it in me to just go through it, I suppose. And so for a couple of months, we were sort of juggling everything. And I remember sort of doing 1.5-hour round trips of having, you know, I was finding people to privately tutor my son, had 3 children in 3 different places in the morning, having to do an 1.5-hour round trip before going into the cabin, and really juggling everything. And it just went on longer and longer. And I thought, we don't know when he's going to get into a school. I was fighting with the local authorities, trying to get him into the right place, fighting to get him diagnosed. And my husband and I sat down. We were like, right, one of us has got to give up work. So this time it was my husband. And he luckily his work was able to give him a sabbatical. So he had a 6-month sabbatical off work, unpaid, which meant that suddenly, for the first time in my life, I am the main wage earner. So this playing that I'd been doing in the cabin was suddenly real life. It was, you know, I had to make a certain amount of money. I had to take this really seriously because I had to support a family of 5. And I just upped the ante basically, and was getting more into the therapy, really working at Facebook, really working at getting my name out there, and just was in that cabin all the time. But the pressure was off of me of trying to do everything with my son as well. So my husband, for the first time in his life, was a stay-at-home dad, which he absolutely embraced, enjoyed, and was wonderful at it. I remember the first time, actually, he said, that's it, because the washing in our house is just never ending. And my husband on the first day was like, well, I'm going to have a routine for this. And the first day, he spent all day washing, all up on the line, right, it's going to be sorted. And I was like, wow. Yeah, it's going to be there again in a couple of days. And he soon realised that, and he slowed right down. But it was funny how our roles had to change. So it was a real moment there. And I found one of the aha moments that I had with my business, especially when I started sort of thinking, you know, this is I've got to do this, was that I threw away my scripts.
Oh, wow.
So having so many hypnotherapy clients, and I'm talking, at the most I was probably having about 80 to 85 clients a month. So if you break that down, it's about 20 odd a week. And when you're relying on scripts for everybody, what I was doing is I was working in the cabin, but then on weekends I was there writing my scripts and, you know, thinking about each client. And I was like, I can't do this any, you know, I just can't do it. And I was actually steering away from hypnotherapy because it was putting me off the fact that I was having to write these scripts constantly, which initially I enjoyed doing, but after a while I'm like, ugh. So I threw them away. I was like, if I'm going to be a hypnotherapist, I have to be a hypnotherapist that works for me, works for my life, works for my family, and I enjoy it. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be doing it. I'm going to be pushing people away. And I think when you send that energy out, when you don't really want clients to come to you, I think it shows. And you know, so I started just doing ad hoc conversation hypnosis. And that was the minute that everything changed again. It's almost like you feel like you just go up another level. And I love that moment of like somebody coming and I have no idea what I'm going to do with them. And you get the butterflies in your stomach and you get that, you know, oh, what if it doesn't go well? What if, you know, and never did it not go well. And I was just getting, you know, every single time I would be coming out going, oh my goodness, you know, miracles have just happened in the cabin because I listened. I wasn't focused on my script that I'd written. I wasn't so hung up about the right words to use or the right way of doing it. What I focused on was just giving them space and listening to the words that they were using to speak to me. And then I would just feed those words right back to them.
I have tears in my eyes right now because I feel like you and I have talked about this interview and just letting whatever needs to surface. And you have such a gift for storytelling, Shells. I've just gone on this journey with you and just hearing the way I love to hear British people speak and talk about the cabin at the end of the garden, where I'd say it's the garage in the yard. It just sounds so magical and mystical. And there's this controversy around scripts and should we or shouldn't we? And I don't have a super strong opinion. I put scripts out in my Transy Tuesday groups and I think that when people are first starting, they love that. But you have just so beautifully and kindly and eloquently explained how when a person is ready, but you probably didn't feel ready. Even if you do it before you're ready. When a person starts to step into the magic of going off the script, of just connecting with that person, of looking them in the eye, of making that space. You've mentioned that several times, that you created this safe space. That's where the magic happens. And I'm just so grateful that you have that just crept its way into the conversation. And now I'm going to be quiet so you can continue your story, because I am just enraptured with this.
Well, I was just thinking about a client, one of the clients that really made me think, because I'd spent a lot of time creating a script for her, and I'd had a consultation with her. I sort of had an idea of what she was struggling with, wrote this script, and then when she came back to see me, she was in a completely different space and she couldn't close her eyes. And she'd said to me, because I did a little sort of test in the consultation, I was like, you know, just close your eyes, just imagine this. And she didn't say anything at the time. When she came back, she went, I didn't like closing my eyes. I couldn't close my eyes. I don't feel right closing my eyes. I was like, okay, then we won't close our eyes. And in my head, I'm like, I got to chuck this script away. I can't use it. You know, we're going off on a complete tangent here. And I just let her speak and let her talk, and she cried. And, you know, it was a really beautiful moment, because she didn't realize what was happening. She was very anxious about the thought of coming for hypnotherapy and the fact that she was feeling unsure about closing her eyes. And she'd felt very, very angry for a long, long time and didn't know why. And then when she cried, she said, this is the first time I can remember crying. She was, you know, she'd seen herself as a very, very strong woman, and she'd never given herself permission to cry. And the moment she did it, it was almost such a release. And the process that I used, and I literally, because I was just listening to her all the time, I got her to imagine the word anger. So, because that's what she was feeling. That's all she was just so angry. And I got her to imagine it as the color red, big, bold letters in her mind. And she really visualized it. And she was actually looking sort of up this way, because she wouldn't close her eyes, so that she was just like imagining this word anger, imagining it red. And then I got her to imagine changing that color to an orange and then to a yellow. And that was when she started to cry, because it was almost like we can identify it, we can acknowledge it, but we need to change it in some way. And all of these words of sort of relaxation, calm, and everything, she was like, no, 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 pushing it all away, because she didn't even know what that felt like. If you don't remember what it feels like to ever feel it, how do you know how to take yourself there? So I just had to use a way of being able to access, you know, what she was feeling and how is she going to be able to interpret that changing. And I just remember that as being a really wonderful session, because in her eyes nothing was happening. She was just doing lots and lots of talking, and it was that tiny little bit at the end that probably took a couple of minutes that released everything. And she was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't close my eyes, and we haven't done the hypnotherapy, and I've been talking all this time. And I'm like, it's okay, it's happened. You know, what is hypnotherapy about? It's about taking on suggestions, which she did. She was taking on everything I was saying, about having focused awareness, about reframing things, seeing things in a different way, you know, and changing the way you feel. And she'd done all of those things, whether you do it with your eyes open, your eyes shut, in a conversation. Does it matter? So, you know, yeah, scripts. I mean, I have got a big database of scripts that I've written, scripts that, you know, that I've taken on and adapted. And the thing that I do is I don't use paper scripts. I have them all on my iPad, which is really useful, because the amount of times I've been in a session with somebody and they've got their eyes closed, and you start reading a script and suddenly realize this doesn't suit this person at all. And so by having it on the iPad, I was easily able to just swap and change and think, no, scroll through, like, yeah, we've got something else. So that was quite a good way of being able to just have everything accessible. And I think over the years, the more times you do it, you can just reel some of the important things in the scripts are the ones that you always remember. There's those certain sayings, those certain sort of words that you use that just sort of come in naturally after a while, and you don't have to remember it from start to finish, you know, this whole big story. And you know, the amount of times that I'll just suddenly go into a script that I remember that I've just said it so many times in the past, and you know, it's not word for word, because also I wouldn't remember all of that, but it's all there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just found that it was just a much better way for me to work. And also it took the emphasis off people that were coming that were so nervous about hypnotherapy, and it wasn't very well known around here. There was a couple of hypnotherapists, very, very different to me, worked in offices, the pictures of them in suits, and do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And for a long time, I thought, oh, you know, when am I going to start sounding like a therapist? When am I going to stop tripping over my words and, you know, making funny jokes and, you know, stop being me, I suppose.
Yes.
When will I have made it? And then that was another aha moment, actually. It was like, do you know what? People keep coming to me because they keep saying, like, I'm real and I'm honest, and they feel like they can open up to me. And I have been very, very open on Facebook, on my personal page, about my journey with my children, the fight that we've had with my son. I've had to call out for help at times, you know, and say I'm struggling here, because I have been. And people have joined me on that journey as well. And I think I think by the fact of being open, people know that, okay, I might be somebody to come and talk to if they've got a child with special needs, or with learning difficulties or something, or they've got a parent with Alzheimer's, with my mum. So I've also got another page for my mum who has early onset Alzheimer's, and she's had Alzheimer's since I was 25.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been very open about our journey with that as well. And so a lot of my clients will sometimes, it will turn out that they have a parent who's got dementia or Alzheimer's, and they know that because of finding me on Facebook and the different things that I talk about. So I usually feel that people end up in the cabin at the right time for them, and there's a reason why they're there. And the amount of times that, even if I've not known them or they've not known me, they've come into this cabin and they'll say something, and I'm like, you're in the right place. You know what I mean? You know, and I'll say something back to them, actually, I do have some experience of this, and they're like, oh my goodness, that's it. And then you immediately feel like you're the right therapist for them. And I always say to people, you know, people work in very, very different ways. They really do. And the fact that I work in a cabin and there's not so many fairies on the wall now. I've sort of toned it down a little bit, but you know, it is a little bit boho, I suppose. I try and keep it sort of middle of the ground. We're not all out Glastonbury, because I'm not all out Glastonbury. But if you want to walk around in bare feet, do it. And actually, some of my longest clients, so I have a regular clientele that just book monthly. They come in for healing, massage, Reiki. Sometimes they've got a particular issue they want to deal with, and we deal with that. But they're in for the long run. And so it just turns over like that. And some of the ones that have been with me for the longest of times are the ones that were the most skeptical, the ones that came out of interest because everybody else was talking about it but didn't actually believe it. And I love those people. I love it when they come in and they've just never, they're like, oh, I don't know all about all of this energy stuff. And when they feel it and they have the experience and the tears that flow and just the wonderful moments, the magic, and it is just magic. It is magical moments. It blows my mind. And I have been known to take people on guided journeys, and at the end we have both been speechless. And we've both literally, I've been in tears, they've been in tears, because it has been so beautiful. And I started incorporating Reiki and hypnotherapy at the same time as well. So I would start doing a Reiki session, and at some point I would then go into a hypnotherapy session, or I'd start on a guided journey. And at some point, a nice one is like I'd get them to sort of dive into, especially if they like water, dive into this wonderful magical healing lake. And as they're in there healing, I'll then start doing some Reiki. So it just all goes quiet and the healing's happening. And so, yeah, mix it all up.
I feel like you're taking us on one of those journeys right now. I can feel the magic of that cabin just inside this conversation. And I feel emotional. This is a really beautiful gift that you are giving us by being here, Shells. I'm loving this so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I think, like I said about wondering about when would I make it, I just decided to be me, because I couldn't be anything else. Yeah. I felt quite stressed and under pressure when I felt like I needed to act in a certain way or come across in a certain way that wasn't necessarily me, when I was so hung up on, did I sound okay? Did I sound professional enough? Did I write it okay? And it almost takes my concentration off that person, because I'm focusing on how I should be. Even my name, the name Fairy Heart Therapies, a lot of people at the beginning was like, well, that's not, men aren't going to come and see you. And I was like, yeah, they will. And they did. Normally I'd see their partners and and then they'd get the husbands in, the boyfriends in, because they're suffering from stress, and, come and have a massage and then feel the Reiki and everything. But yeah, it's, I've just done what's worked for me, because by doing that, that's all. Well, that becomes the best of me. I become the best of what I do. Where if I was trying to step into somebody else's shoes, I can't do it. So I don't talk a lot of long words. And like I said, I've done lots of training courses. I've done lots of theory. My concentration span can be a little bit limited, I think. I think that's a mum thing, maybe. I don't know. Just running around after the children and just having so many things going on. I literally don't have that amount of time to delve into lots and lots of research on stuff. So my way of researching is I have lots and lots of books, and I just open a book up one day when I've got some time over a cup of tea, and what's on that page, I'll take a golden nugget from it and I'll think, oh, I'm going to use that, and then I move on to something else. So it's all about a need to know bit. Obviously I've done all my training, but I can't, how many people retain everything that they've learned, right, and all the words, and I used to feel like I had to memorize like literally everything. And then I thought, well, the people that come in to see me don't know these long words, and, even when I say the word hypnotherapy to them, they're like, oh, and then I've got to then backtrack and go, no, you're not going to bark like a dog. You're not going to quack like a duck. Get all of this stage. It's not like that. And, and then I started wondering, like, am I even doing the, how much of it is hypnotherapy? How much of it is NLP? How much of it is CBT? How much of it is healing? How much of it is just me? How much is the cabin? So I just called it therapy. And, or nothing at all. I took everything off my Facebook, my website, actually, all of my different treatments that I did, because everything was just so tuned in for that person. And, I'd adapt, I'd change, I just seemed to know as soon as they go into the cabin what it was they needed. So there isn't really a name for that. I'm going to have to make up one, maybe. I don't know.
Do you get a lot of your clients through referral?
Pretty much now. Yeah, I think so. I ran a lot of, I mean, I worked hard on Facebook to start off with. I was doing stuff either free or for, low cost, in return for reviews. So I've got about 85 reviews on my Facebook page. And, a lot of them were when I was building it up, because I wanted people to describe in their own words what it was they were experiencing. It's so much better when somebody can say how it's changed them, rather than me going, oh yeah, I can do this, that, and the other. And it just falls on deaf ears, because people need to know that somebody's had a transformation. Somebody's, absolutely had a breakthrough, and they need to come from their words. So that was really important. So I've never been afraid of offering my services for free or at reduced cost in return for a review. And sometimes I've known that there's been certain clients, especially when you see them on Facebook and you can see how they describe things and how maybe open they are on Facebook, I might think they're going to be a good person to write a review. It's more important to me because I know from what I've already seen that they will be able to write a really good review. So I will offer them, some really discounted treatments in return for them to write me a review, especially when we've had some really, really big transformations with these people as well. So I think that is just so important, really important. I do competitions, giveaways, different things like that. And some of those people have been, some of my longest clients, where they didn't really know what they were coming for. Gift vouchers, Mother's Day, all this kind of thing. And with the hypnotherapy, the way I was trying to get that out to people was I would create a script and just advertise that script. So I did one for confidence and self-esteem, and then ran that in a competition, and and almost gave it away as a little package, so people understood what it was that they were giving, rather than just a hypnotherapy session. And I found more and more that sometimes people don't necessarily understand what it is they're struggling with. They don't have the words for it. And I could bang on about it all the time. And I've got friends that have low self-esteem, but they don't feel anxious. Or I've got friends that have quite a negative body image, but actually they don't feel that unconfident. It's very mixed, isn't it? So you have to portray things in various different ways to hit everybody. And I think sometimes people have to see things about 5, 6, 7 times before they realize that this could be something for them. So that with the reviews, and I wanted to be different from a stereotypical, I suppose in my head what I had as a stereotypical therapist, because the only experience I'd had was going to a doctor's, being referred to a counsellor, all being quite serious, lots of forms to fill in. And it just sort of felt like you had to be at a certain place to acknowledge that you needed that. But what if we could get to people before that, before they hit that crisis, create an awareness of looking after your mental health, of looking after this anxiety, this stress, whatever it is, and actually getting to it before you hit a time in your life where you just struggle to get out of bed. And what this brought me on to another aha bit of my business, where I just thought, people go to the gym, people go and do yoga, they don't do all these classes, they'll go to Weight Watchers and all these different things, weekly, they're quite open about it, they'll pay money for it. Well, why isn't there one for your mental health? Just a maintenance class where giving you all the tools and the techniques to be able to sustain a healthy mindset before you just sort of dive off with it. If you didn't recognize it, there's nothing out there where people would be like, oh yeah, I'm feeling a little bit like this, maybe I should do this, be mindful, check in. And I found that although there's lots of things all over Facebook with quotes and people sharing stuff, it never really sinks in. You sort of think, oh, that's a nice quote, and then you're off again. You're constant, the way it sinks in doesn't work. You almost need to explain the process. It's like, okay, we all know how to be aware of mental health. Everybody goes on about the awareness of mental health. But then what do? we can talk about it, about everybody's mental health, but where's the tools and the strategies? And I am very much a person, it's like, tell me how to fix, tell me what to do. You know, when I was you know, trying to get help for my son, the amount of meetings I sat in, the amount of times that all of the adults discussed myself, my son, the environment around him, you know, the reasons he's got these issues. Yes, we know all that. Tell me what I need to do to help him. And that was the gap, you know, all the time. So I was on holiday in Spain, and I get this time where I go on holiday, I feel exhausted, my mind goes numb, can't think about anything for a couple of days. And then suddenly it's almost like I wake up a little bit because I've had a bit of a break. And then all my creativity comes back. And I thought, I need to do something where I can reach more people, because working one-on-one is just, you know, it's exhausting me. There's only so many hours in the day. And a lot of the time I'm using the same techniques for people. And I started having an idea of trying to create some kind of group or something of how to reach people with anxiety or something like that. And the first thing I do when I think of a plan is I think of a name. And if I can think of the name, everything sort of falls around behind that. And I went to bed and I just spoke to the universe. And this is going to sound really woo-woo. I literally went, universe, I've got this idea. Just give me the name. And just as I was falling asleep, I saw 2 W's, really big, and a little O in the middle. And I was like, what's that mean? What does that mean? And I could see wow. And I was like, I don't know what the W's mean. And I was literally just like, just as I was falling asleep, and literally it was the last thing I remember in my mind was the wonders of wellness. And I had the name. I didn't know what I was going to do with it or anything, but I knew it was something special. So lots of little things came from that. So initially, I kept Is Hypnotherapies, but I had this name, The Wonders of Wellness, and I wanted to do some kind of group work. But I very quickly discovered that people that are struggling with anxiety aren't really going to rock up to a hall or a big room necessarily. So I'm going to find a way of being able to reach people in a different way. And I did a few more training courses. I became attuned in angelic Reiki, which I didn't know a lot about at the time, but I had the opportunity to go and train, and I absolutely had a wow moment during it. It's a very different energy, one again that I struggled to explain, but we had to do the self-healing, and for a couple of days afterwards, and I was in the shower one day, and suddenly there's all these various places where I have these ideas. I suddenly thought I need to write a book. Because I started thinking about the people that were coming to my cabin. Even giving them a form to fill out, they'd break into a sweat. So I'd keep things so simple. Talking about hypnotherapy, it'd break them into a sweat. Getting them to close their eyes and relax breaks them into a sweat. You know, everything I'm asking to do is what's triggering their anxiety. And I thought I need to, and these sort of people weren't the ones that were sort of big on Facebook or big online, because, you know, they were quite private people, and they didn't like to read a lot online. So I thought a physical book, which you could just pick up and put down, would be amazing. And because a lot of my clients have got children around and things like that, I thought, how amazing would it be to have a self-help book that was beautiful, that could be on your coffee table, but it didn't matter if your children picked it up, and that every page that you opened out on had something that you could take away and implement right there and then. So you didn't have to read chapters and chapters of long introductions, that you didn't need to learn these long words. You didn't need to learn the goings on in the brain. You don't need to know that, because you've got tea to cook, and whilst you're trying to read your book, the fish fingers are burning in the oven, and the kids are crying and they need their bath. You know, you just want to know how to go from up here back down to here very quickly. Just tell me how to do it. So that's where my book idea came through, and the book was called The Wonders of Wellness, and that's the first time I sort of used the name. And we're nearly there with the book. It's taken longer than what I thought, but
I've seen it and it is so beautiful.
Yeah, I'm so excited to get it out there, and it's just been proofread, and so we're getting close to it. And it's changed many times throughout lockdown because I've changed as a person and my business has changed, and just, you know, finances and everything I'm trying to get it done has changed. But I'm so excited to be able to get out there, because it's just another way of people being able to access what I'm showing everybody in the cabin. You know, if you can't come and see me physically, here's the book. If you're scared or nervous, and I know I've got clients that, you know, have wanted to come in the cabin, but their anxiety is stopping them from making that appointment, you know, but they message me, and I know that they really want to learn and want to know those techniques. So that's what the book is about. It's about, you know, those how to meditate while the kettle's boiling. It's real-time stuff, but also, you know, practical stuff, how to reframe those thoughts, how to acknowledge them, how to actually feel them and not feel afraid of feeling them. You know, all the stuff that you do, that I do, that can be captured in a page or 2 pages, but look beautiful and actually not scary. Because I bought a hell of a lot of self-help books. Some I just had anyway, and some just out of curiosity, just to see what was out there. And there's so much black and white text. And I know that when I'm sort of anxious, my adrenaline's going, it's like I'm blind to it all. It's just a load of gobbledygook. And I need a children's picture book, really.
It's so beautiful. And as we're speaking, I think I really want to show people this book. If you would let me just put a few pages on the landing page where I'll put this video on my website for anyone listening. If you go to trancypants.com, which is the name that my unconscious gave me when I said, will you just give me something? And go to my podcast page and find Shells, Michelle Pattenden. I'll have some pictures of your book, because it is so like your artwork, that feeling of the cabin comes across in your artwork. And it's just, when you open that book, and I've only seen a PDF of it, I haven't even touched it. You feel that feeling as you view it.
Yeah. And you know, part of me was like, are people going to relate to it? Because if they don't know me in the cabin, is it going to mean anything to anybody? But I've been sending it out to a few different people, and like you said, people are relating to it. And I think it is bringing that magical bit to therapy. And, you know, okay, we're dealing with, you know, some of the people that I'm seeing, there's some real tough stuff we're going through, you know, real tough stuff. But it doesn't mean it can't still be a beautiful, magical experience as you know, as we walk through it together. And I feel like that's what I'm doing. I'm taking them by the hand, and I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily know the answers to everything, but I'm going to be on this journey with you, and I'm going to give you space to be able to explore, to actually, you know, examine why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and to just I suppose to have a little bit of a play. Let's go backwards. Let's just go, you know, let's go forwards. Let's just, you know, move about the place and figure out what it is you want and where you want to go, and see if we can get there. And the amount of times where, you know, people have had those aha moments, and I'm sat there going, I still don't know what I'm not quite sure what happened, but something happened and they're happy, so that's great.
I love that. And in your intro, the word curiosity came up. And I feel like when you come from that place of curiosity, and you said earlier, let's just see, it takes the pressure off. And I feel like it opens up the magic. It opens up the potential for magic. And also you saying that you watch the client undergo a transformation and you don't even know what happened. I think it's so valuable for us to realize that we're not the ones doing it. We're just creating a magical space for them for their unconscious mind to make that change on their behalf.
Yeah, definitely. And when people realize that they have the control and that power, you know, because I think a lot of people that, you know, when they've gone to the doctors and they've relied on medication, and they've relied on, you know, they're on waiting lists for the NHS services, which is predominantly CBT, you know, and I'm actually, you know, we can do this now. You know, we can actually, and you have the power. It's not dependent on all of these external things. It's actually looking inside and just taking a pause. But sometimes you need somebody to take you by the hand and show you, and that's really important as well. And I think I've noticed that as a therapist as well, of actually the more successful my business became, it was almost the more isolated I felt, because I'm working on my own a lot. You know, I'm not working in an organization. I don't have a boss. I'm self-employed. I'm very reliant on my my own skill base. And, you know, I know a lot of therapists, but we're all very, very different. So what I think it's really important to have a network of like-minded people that can support you in doing what you're doing, because I can't come out of my cabin and shout to the world, oh my God, do you realize what just happened? I just changed, you know, this person's life just changed and it was amazing. I can't do that because it's not my story to tell. I have to rely on other people to be able to shout that, you know, for me. And, you know, and sometimes you come out thinking, not sure whether I did the right thing there or whether things went okay. And I am very much, I know you said this before, I'm a words of affirmation person. Oh my goodness, I am. It's like, tell me how you feel. You know, I want to hear from you. And then somebody said to me once, well, if you go to the doctors and they prescribe you something and you get better, do you phone the doctors back up and tell them that you're feeling better now? And I'm like, no. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, because I don't hear from them because they're feeling better. But what happens is that then suddenly I'll get a message through from somebody, they've recommended me. And then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, so-and-so was talking about you, they've recommended me to you, can you help me? And I'm like, that's how I know that this ripple effect is actually working. Because I was sort of really hanging on to the fact that, like, well, no, I need to chase you up to see how you were. And if I want to know. And sometimes people just go off and they go quiet and they're having a brilliant life, but they will talk to their friends and their family, and it might be a year later they might suddenly come back to you and go, oh, that thing that you did for me really worked, and now I've got this other thing. And I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even know that worked. Okay, great, come on back in. So, you know, that whole validation process was quite tricky to get my head around, but the more that I was doing it and I think I've worked with that person, right, on to the next one, you know. Yeah. It's like they're just going to go off and whatever happens, because at the end of the day, I can do what I can do, but they are so much in control and have the power as well. Mm-hmm. And it's up to them what happens in the rest of their life. Do you know what I mean? I can't chase up after them.
Yeah. So Shells, there's something coming up in my mind that I want to ask on behalf of the listener. I have two things. The first is, you've mentioned the phrase that's coming to my mind is training junkie. And I think so many of us, I hope that doesn't sound offensive the way I'm putting that. Okay. We love trainings, people in this field. And I'm the same way. Like, literally, while I was waiting for you, I was listening to a Clubhouse room, and I wrote down 4 books that I want to read. It's like right now, I want all 4 books right now. And we're always wanting to consume more information. We're all like, we love the idea of being certified in one more thing. And at the same time, I hear you saying that as you were going through, you were practicing this stuff and you were finding 5 people to work this thing as you're going through. So my first question is, can you talk to me a little bit about your process of going from training to actually practicing? Because I know that's a huge leap for some people. And then beyond that, will you just talk to me a little bit about how your business has transformed now that we're in a pandemic? And I know the UK, man, just has it rougher than I think anyone else that I am aware of in the world. How you are navigating your business now that you can't have people in the cabin.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so in regards to your first question, I kept my prices low. It was almost like I took the pressure off myself. And like I brought people on my training journey with me. So I was always very open and transparent of like, I've just got this new certificate, post it up, you know, I want to try this, and getting people in that way. Sometimes I would practice sort of a guided meditation to get my voice right, and to just, it's almost like a gentler way of being able to practice just physically being with somebody. And I think that's just, and it just sort of evolved over time. Sometimes, mostly my clients would be initially Reiki and healing, and then I would then have a couple of like therapy clients. But now everything I offer is just completely mixed up in every session for somebody. So, like I said, I could be doing healing with somebody and then it turns into a hypnotherapy session, which is why I now charge per time in the cabin rather than a specific treatment, because I was doing a healing facial on somebody once, and halfway through they absolutely broke down. And I think it was when the Reiki, because I had this point where they have the mask on and then I do Reiki healing, and they just broke down. And I think they'd had a miscarriage. I think there was something that had been really triggered anyway. And I ended up doing some just very quick sort of hypnosis, NLP, things with them with this mask on. And I'm like, so where they came for a healing facial, they're actually getting, a full-blown therapy treatment, which I didn't know was going to happen. But you can't just sort of like, sorry, you're in for a facial. That's all it's going to, we've got to stick to that, and that's not the way it is. So I found that so many surprises were happening. I had to just price per time in the cabin, and it just is what it is. And the amount of people that come in that just go, can you help me? I'm suffering from anxiety and I don't know if you're the right person. And I'm like, yeah, come on in. Generally it's anxiety now, and I know when people talk about niching, I never consciously niched, but it's what people mainly come to me for. It just seems to have happened that way. So yeah, I just think just doing it for free, just getting my confidence, because I think I just need, it's having that practice of having somebody sat physically in front of you, feeling comfortable and feeling confident. So no matter what was going on in my mind, the minute they walk through that cabin, I am expecting it to work. It's going to go perfectly, no matter what. And there is no room for argument with that. So at the end of it, and they say, I can't remember anything you just said, perfect. It's exactly how it was supposed to go. If they sit there and go, I'm not sure if I went anywhere, perfect. You heard everything that I said. It's like, because you know that those changes are going to be happening on one way or another on some kind of level. And it's how much people want to change as well, If they're expecting me to do all the work, then not much is going to happen when they leave the cabin.
Right.
So I don't know if I've just sort of like answered your question in a way. I suppose, yeah, I don't remember there being a complete sort of contrast between, training and actually working. It just sort of happened gradually. So.
And how did you transition from free and then charge? Because I think that's something a lot of therapists struggle with as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, for some of the treatments I did when I was learning, sometimes I had like so many people, I'd put it on Facebook. So for my healing facial, I don't know whether I've ever told you this story, but I actually decided when I was in Spain that I thought it'd be really nice to do facial treatments with Reiki. And I wasn't trained in facials, but I thought, well, I'll sort that out afterwards. So I had this idea and I just run with it. I absolutely run with it, because then I'm accountable for it and I don't give myself too much time then to talk myself out of it. So I just described this wonderful facial treatment, healing facial treatment on Facebook, and was like, how amazing would that be if you could have this? And I didn't know anybody else that was doing it, incorporating Reiki with a facial. And then I thought, okay, the first 5 people will get it for free. That gives me enough time to actually just get used to touching somebody else's face. The next 5 people will get it for £5, okay, because I'll have a little bit more of an idea of what I'm doing then, but the pressure's still off me because they'll just be really thankful for coming in and having a treatment. So I went on like that until we got to the price that I wanted to ask.
Awesome.
And that by that time I'd seen probably about 25 people. So by the time people were paying the top amount of money, it's second nature to me. I feel like I've done all that. I mean, obviously I got home and I found a trainer to train me in facials and got my certificate, but I already knew how I wanted to do it. I knew that I just needed the basics, but I was going to put my own swing on it anyway. So yeah, it was a little bit backwards. I mean, I would have been a little bit, I think I gave myself like 4 weeks to train in the facial bit. I knew there was like 1-day training courses that I could do, because it wasn't, I'm not a beautician. It was very much of a healing holistic facial. So I knew it was just a very sort of, there was a certain certificate that I wanted. But yeah, I'd already booked everybody in and went for it that way. And the same was with the hypnotherapy. I remember calling people in actually when I was training just to come in for free. And they laid on the couch one end of the cabin and I'm the other end of the cabin. holding my script, and I'm probably talking with like a really monotone voice, thinking, am I getting it right? Am I talking in the right way with the right pauses, emphasizing the right you know? But they were really happy to just like fall asleep on the couch. It didn't matter if it worked or it didn't work. It was just an experience for them. I wasn't taking anybody in with any sort of hardcore issues, but this was, you know, I was very open that, you know, this is practice, and you need to, I think you need to just get used to actually having a script, using your voice. Now when I'm doing hypnotherapy with somebody, I might take them in for an induction and we're still talking, and I'll use the same tone of voice until suddenly I'll get a point where I've already asked them to close their eyes and they haven't realized it yet, and then you just get slower in your voice. And so it's I like to make it very, very natural, because I always find that bit when you say sit down, make yourself comfortable and close your eyes, all of a sudden they're like, what's gonna happen?
Oh my goodness, you've just given anyone who really listens to what you just explained, to how you went from training to doing, and then from doing it for free and working up to the level you are now. You have just given such a gem just in those few minutes of this show. And I'm so grateful to you, Shells. It's funny because I'm a licensed cosmetologist. So I didn't even know what facials were when I started beauty school. And that was one of my favorite parts, was both giving the facial and receiving the facial. It's such a soothing gift. Hearing you talk about it makes me want to come to the UK and experience that from you. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I gotta say, you know, and then that started sort of, you know, I wasn't happy with just an hour healing facial. I ended up doing an hour and a half, to like my longest treatment's 2 hours, where it's, you know, back and shoulder, head massage. But that healing happens as well. And a lot of the time people will then afterwards just say, wow, I just started thinking about something, you know, from years ago. I don't know why it popped into my head, or I just felt something, and that, like I said, opens up the door. Then I had one client one time that she came to I did a little guided meditation about finding your spirit guide, and she found it a very bizarre experience, and sort of wasn't thinking about a spirit guide. She actually sort of was thinking about a family member actually that had passed away, and it sort of troubled her a bit. But this person struggled with fibromyalgia and some really sort of health problems that had set her back for a couple of years. And she was very much in tune with, like, you know, what she was eating, trying to be organic, you know, everything like that. And I said to her after the guided meditation, because I felt like it triggered something in her, and I was like, come back and have some Reiki. She came back and had some Reiki, and we realized that actually it was this undealt with issue with this family member that had passed away, and it was like 10 years ago. But from that moment she'd been getting ill, and so I did a bit of work with her in releasing that. And then the fibromyalgia started clearing up, and her energy levels were coming up, and her skin was getting better, and that link of, you know, what was there. And she needed to be in that cabin. She didn't know the initial reason why she was coming wasn't what she was expecting at all, but that healing happened on so many levels. And I just love that. I love the fact that, you know, we all know that you know, if we're suffering from something physical, it's generally something emotional that needs to be dealt with as well. So it's just incorporating all of it. So yeah, very much hands-on, and you know, just and feeling that energy. And sometimes I know that if people aren't able to express to me with words what's going on, or I feel like I'm not getting the whole story, I'll do some Reiki healing, and generally that will give me everything that I need, because I'll feel it. And so that's woo-woo, but I can't quite explain it, but I will feel it and I'll know.
I love it. And I want to point out to anyone listening that I believe you can create this magical space anywhere. So much of what you've done in the cabin, I would imagine, comes down to intention. And that's the space you intended to create, and it happened. And I've done that with my Zoom calls, where I'll stand back and I'll imagine sprinkling pixie dust over the space and watching magic happen between me and the people on the screen. So I want everyone who's listening to know that you can have that magic space anywhere. You can have that on an airplane seat when you encounter a stranger who you feel like maybe you were supposed to be there so that you could help them. So that is so awesome. And that's probably a really good place to segue into what you've been doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, so, you know, I'm not technical at all. I ran my whole business through my iPhone and Facebook, and kept things very, very simple, because I didn't need to. I mean, I had my Facebook page. it was enough to get me going, get me started. And then, you know, when you get your regular clients coming in, I literally got to the point where I was struggling to take on any new people anyway. They had like a 6 or an 8 week wait list to even get one appointment with me. And so I didn't need Facebook so much. And then lockdown happened, cabin shut, triggered a lot in me because I felt like I was going right back to the beginning again. And I needed to keep going. So obviously finances were all a little bit different as well. I needed to be earning something. But at the same time, I knew that there was certain things that I couldn't do, and I wasn't prepared. There was a few job offers that come my way, doing completely different things. And where I worked in care as well, I could have gone back into that, but I held fast because I thought the minute that I go and start doing another job, I feel like I've said goodbye to the cabin, because I need to dedicate everything, all my energy, all my focus onto that. And I'm not prepared to not do that. And so if I'm going to be skint, I'm going to be skint. But I think I just felt like the minute I start taking another job to do something else, I'm walking away. So I had to really think about how I was going to create this space online. And I've done a few different things. I created some online packages in the first lockdown, and I've got some amazing website people that listen to my crying a lot because I don't know how to do things. And I sort of played about a little bit, but thinking, right, I'll open up back soon. It's okay. It's just to tide me over. And then we got locked down again in October, and I thought I was going to open up in January. And I booked people in, and then we suddenly got told we weren't able to open up again. So again, I had to cancel everybody. And I think it was like the third time throughout this whole pandemic that I'd had to cancel everybody. So this time I recorded a little video for everyone, because I couldn't bear to type it anymore. So I did a video, and everybody actually got back to me and said that was really nice just to have that personal touch. And I felt so frustrated. So I thought, I'm going to have to do something. So I'd already joined your group by then. By the way, I had been following you for a couple of years. Okay. Yeah, but it just out of enjoyment, and never really felt, because I was just in the cabin and that was what I did. And so back in the summer, I'd created a group because I wanted to have more conversation. My Facebook page was fine, and I've described it before, like being the poster in the window, advertising what I'm doing. And it got quite popular, but it was reaching fewer and fewer people, maybe because everybody was just suddenly jumping online, I don't know, but my posts weren't going out so far. And I felt that isolation again. I missed everybody. I missed my clients. I missed what I did. I missed me. And I realized that everything that I was doing made me. And it was the way that I coped with any of my anxieties. And suddenly I wasn't able to do any of my normal coping techniques, because when I go and do healing and do Reiki on people, that's what makes me feel good as well. And so I thought I need to touch base with everybody. So I created this group, had no idea how it was going to go. Didn't know if I was just going to have 5 people in it or not, but I think I've got about 630 people in it. And I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I just wanted to keep my business just floating, just so people didn't forget, and also help people as well. In the first lockdown, I jumped on a live, which was probably one of the first, few lives that I'd done, and I was on it for about half an hour, gabbling away. Don't even remember what I was talking about, but the response that I got back, where people was like hanging on every word that I was saying, and they were like, thank you so much. And I suddenly realized where my cabin, and I'd been seeing about 80 people a month, and I was dealing predominantly with anxiety, it felt like the entire world had become my clients. And that's how I felt it was like. And this wasn't about money. This wasn't about business. This was about doing what I do and trying to get it out to everybody. And one of the first things I did actually was recorded a free meditation. And for this area, they'd set up a group to help with people in the pandemic, and everybody was offering all of these practical things. And I thought, I don't know what to do. All I can do is record a meditation, and if anybody wants it, then I sort of tentatively put it up and goes, hi, I'm just your local therapist. I've done this meditation. If anybody wants it, you can have it. And oh my goodness, my phone didn't stop. I think I was up till about 1 o'clock in the morning, individually, because I didn't know any other way of doing it, individually WhatsApping this meditation that I'd done for everybody. And with it was the messages of how people were feeling. So I was getting a really good idea that people's anxieties were all over the place. So I sort of felt that this group was probably more important than what I intended it to be. So I started just using it as a way of being able to, you know, give the free meditation. So every couple of weeks or so I would do one. But I was also very careful not to put too much pressure on myself, because I was struggling as well. And I was trying to, you know, keep the family okay and afloat. And I thought, I don't want to suddenly say, well, I'm going to do this every week, because I don't know if I'm going to want to do this every week or how I'm feeling. So I was very sort of a little bit ad hoc with it, I suppose. But every time I did say, you know, let's do a meditation, I'd be getting about 6 or 7 people come into it, and they'd really enjoy it. And so things sort of just built up from the group. And then in October, I thought, I'm running out of things to say in my group, because all I'm doing is waiting to go back in the cabin. And I thought, I'm getting a bit bored of my own voice. And so I had this idea of inviting lots of people onto my group and interviewing them. So I did about 10 interviews, and this was very basic. I didn't even have Zoom. I had Facebook rooms so that we could just go live. And there was a lot of, it was very unprofessional. It was a lot of me just staring at the screen going, I don't know what I'm doing here. And but by doing that, I just thought it was just giving other therapists, and it was hypnotherapists, it was counselors, it was beauty therapists, anybody that felt that they had something to help people with some advice. And I just touched base with all of my friends, all the people that I knew. And this was brilliant, because some people had never gone on to a Facebook Live before. And I was like, you can advertise your business, you can do, you know, whatever. Just, I want to bring some content in for my people in the group. And I remember a friend of mine he's quite corporate, and he's a therapist, and we holiday together, and we have these great big conversations about the universe and everything. And he's very well read, and he can always remember the long words that I can't. And he came onto my Facebook group, and he was really quite nervous about coming on, because although he was used to going and giving, you know, speaking in front of groups and lectures and all this sort of thing, he didn't really know Facebook. And I felt really comfortable with Facebook. And so we talked about fear, and he said to me, I wake up every day feeling fearful. You know, I do. I feel fearful now being on Facebook. You know, this is alien to me. And that really gave me an insight into, actually, I was always intimidated by people in suits in the corporate world, and you know, these well-educated people. But actually, I'm good at what I do. You know, and when you're stepping out of one kind of lifestyle and coming to another, actually you're coming into my world now, and it's really refreshing actually to be the one that's doing the interviewing, and you actually being really open about the fact that this scares the hell out of you. And it was like almost like breaking down boundaries. And so that the really useful thing as well with doing this in the group was that the people that were coming on and being interviewed were inviting the people that they knew to come and watch them in the group, because the group is private, and the only way you could watch it was to come into the group, and they sort of tend to stay then. So if I'd, you know, in one way I thought if I'd done it for my business page, it could have been shared and recorded and whatever, but because it was in my group, it couldn't. So it was purely for my people, purely for me. And I didn't consciously think about that until afterwards, but I thought actually that's probably worked in my favor. That's worked quite well. And so, yeah, that was really good up towards Christmas. And so I decided to do another free sort of session, guided meditation. And I did an anxiety workshop, and I had about 20 people turn up to that. I thought my engagement rate with my group's really, really high at the moment. And I thought about doing a membership group online, and I'd sort of watched people do it and thought about it, toyed with it, and what stopped me all the time was thinking I'm going to go back to the cabin. So I don't want to start anything too much for when I go back. And then, of course, in January, I just thought, I've got to stop playing around now. You know, I've got to start actually, you know, running my business online, because I can't keep relying on the fact that, you know, yes, my cabin's open. No, it's shut. Yes, it's open. No, it's shut. I can't keep doing that. You know, there's people waiting to work with me. And so I listened to yours and Lance's podcast, which took me about 5 days. It was about 3 hours long. And there were certain moments in that which just, I remember just pressing pause and re-listening to it, of just doing it. because I kept thinking all the time, thinking, do I know enough about this? Do I know enough about that? Am I able to keep doing it week after week? And my biggest hurdle was actually making friends with my laptop, who is only a couple of months old, because I finally decided I had to buy a laptop. Couldn't do this from my phone or my iPad. And just getting the financial bit sorted for people to be able to sign up, because I wanted them to be able to sign up through my website. So that was all down to my website people. I cried a lot. I slammed my laptop down. I didn't speak to it for about 3 days. I decided that was it. I'm not doing it. I'm just going to sit and watch Netflix and eat chocolate and wait for my cabin to open. Oh my goodness, the roller coaster. I kept thinking, why am I putting myself through this? Why am I doing it? Nobody's asking me to do it. I don't have to do it. But there's just something in me, I think, when I have an idea and I think I can reach people, I can do some good here, and I'll never know if I don't do it. And I never want to look back on my life with regret. I would just rather do it fearful. And if it all goes wrong, it all goes wrong. But how wrong can it possibly go? I'm creating something extra to what I already have. So I'm just going to do it. And I remember I left you the voicemail, a voice message, was it? Going, I've just set up my membership group. I just did it.
Remember that? That was so awesome.
And you know, my first thought was like, I'm going to have to offer it to people for free, because like, how am I going to get people in it? And who's going to want to pay to be the first one in a group of just one person? I mean, I literally just thought, how do you broach that? So I sort of put a few things out in my group of like, and it was very roundabout way. It wasn't even straight to the point. It's like, if you could have this, and this, because I wasn't really sure what I was offering. I was just sort of like playing about with words. Would you be interested? And lots and lots of people put yes. And then I wrote sort of a thing of like what I'd like to offer. Nothing hard and fast. All I knew is that it was going to be weekly Zoom lessons. Everything else was like, you know, well, you could have this, we could do that. And so, and I got and I said, you know, I will get back in touch with you when it's up and running. Because I thought, well, then if I've got sort of 4 or 5 people that are definite, I can put them all in at the same time. But I also had 2 or 3 people that I knew I was just going to add in for free. So I'm part of their groups and I help with their stuff. So that's quite a nice way of doing it. And we got all the payment stuff sorted. And I had 5 people sign up like immediately. And I was like,
I just want to really quickly call attention to something that some people might miss. You started by creating curiosity. You said, if I did this, would you be interested? And so I just want to spotlight that for people and then go on.
Yeah, I was curious too, because I don't know what's going to happen. You know, and I remember asking in your group about a name, because I didn't want anything too different from what I was already doing, because it gets confusing then. And you know, and I just called it the WOW VIP membership group, because that's what it was. But I didn't really give anybody a specific indication of what was going to happen. I'm just going to create space for you. I'm just going to be me doing what I do. So if you normally come for a facial and you feel lovely and relaxed, let me try and recreate that over Zoom. And I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm going to try. So the people that started coming to my group, I think, are people that are regulars in my cabin, and they've attended some of my guided meditations. So I think they knew the sort of thing that I was going to offer was going to be valuable to them. Since then, I've had people now join that I don't know, I've never met, and I offered them quite discounted one-to-one sessions as well, which has been really nice, because they've been part now of the membership group. I've sort of got little glimpses of them, they've got glimpses of me. So by the time we do a one-to-one session, it's been very easy to do.
Are you doing one-to-one on Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've done it with a couple of the people in the membership group, and it, like, the difference to when I first start working with somebody brand new that I haven't worked with before, there's quite a lot of work there to do in the whole rapport building, actually really getting to understand what it is they want. And I found just having them in the group, that work was sort of naturally done. So, you know, the other day I did an arrow technique, which was sort of, it was like a half-hour session that they fed back to me. They just finished something like 10 weeks of counselling. It was an issue that had been going on for a couple of years, and they just felt like they couldn't even access that issue anymore. Wow. And you know how powerful it can be, you know, and it's, but even when it happened, you're like, wow. But I don't think, I'm not sure whether that would have been effective if I hadn't already touched base with them in some way or another. Do you know what I mean? If I just didn't know them, but because they'd already been coming on this journey with me in the membership group, and they'd felt comfortable enough to put things about themselves anyway, it was really good. So I'm not doing the membership group to get one-to-one clients. It was just something extra if they wanted for something specific. But I do say to people, if there's anything you want, a topic that you want touched on, then just feedback and I can just arrange it for the group. So what I wasn't expecting with this membership group was, one, the speed, I suppose, that people were signing up for it, and two, the supportiveness that they're giving to each other. And that was amazing. So these people don't know each other, but I know sort of most of them. And they are, so there was a moment where I did a Zoom call one week. I think it was like my second or third week, and my internet went and I got shut out of Zoom. However, on my phone, because my phone's 4G, I could see it all in my group. They're still there being live streamed into the group, and I've been shut out and I couldn't get back in. So I'm sort of, I don't know what to do. I can't communicate with them. I get back onto Zoom, and then what they did is they forgot they were being recorded and live streamed, and they just undid their mics and they started chatting to each other, going, "Hello, how are you been getting on this week?" And I didn't know all this until afterwards. So after about 10 minutes, the internet came back on, and I was able to get back into the group. My heart was going, trying to sort survive and calm. They were all fine, but I felt awful afterwards. I thought, oh my goodness, what am I trying to do here? I can't even stay on a Zoom call. I can't even keep my own meeting going. And they said to me afterwards, rewatch the session. So I did, and it was so beautiful. It's like, so I was frozen, panicking in the background. They all undid their mics. They start chatting to each other, finding out how each other have been getting on. Really, really bonding, really being supportive of each other. And it was just, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And I just thought, even that worked, you know?
You just gave me such a gift by sharing that story, because the mastermind that you're in, our mastermind, when my apartment flooded a few weeks ago, it was almost like me being unhooked from the internet, and I just couldn't engage the way I wanted to. And I realized in hindsight that it was such a gift, because now everyone in that group has just been supporting one another and building that rapport. And when I have moments to go in and check what's going on, there's just these super active threads going on, and people offering opinions and insights and perspectives that I never would have done on my own. And I realized that it's actually a gift that I had to step away. And so I love that you shared that, because I know there's so many people who hesitate to use Zoom because what if the scary thing happens? And the thing is, that scary thing does sometimes happen, and it can actually be a gift and an opportunity. So I have a podcast interview with Dan Candell. And I remember the first time I was introduced to Dan Candell, I was listening to him present at Hypnothoughts and talk about his journey and his profession. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I wish I could be as cool as this guy. I wish I could do what he was doing. And the more he talked, the more almost jealous I felt. And I talked about this on my podcast with him. And I can almost sense, I try to put myself into the shoes of the listener as we're recording these. And Shells is just sharing these treasures and her journey. And I can almost picture a person sitting and thinking, well, that's her. I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. And I really want you to understand that the reason I put these podcasts together is because all of these people, Shells today, is modeling for you. She is unwrapping the blueprint. You can almost imagine being in her head and thinking the way she thinks and moving the way that she is moving on this forward trajectory. If Shells can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And so if you have been feeling, if there's been any imposter monster saying, yeah, but I want you to go back and listen again and think, what if I could do this? What if this is available to me as well? And your journey may look totally different. Shells has spoken about how I'm not like everyone else. I'm doing it my own way. And when you infuse your personality, the journey just becomes so rich. So I'm just going to stop talking now, Shells, and let you continue, because I'm hanging on every word. This is so brilliant.
It's so true. And, you know, I often I get intimidated by people that I suppose that certain people have sort of a very logical way of looking at things and can actually, you know, portray something and explain it. And I always feel I sort of go around the houses and go, oh, look, there's a sparkly thing over there. Let's go for that. And, but I seem to do things. And I realized I love marketing. I love photos and visual images. And I bring that very much into my work. And what I'm doing, there's names for it all and protocols and explanations. I just do it automatically or intuitively, and what I'm trying to do is untangle it all so that I can explain it to other people. And I never realized, I suppose, how valuable the information is. It's just something that I've always done, I suppose. And I think, you know, like I said, Facebook, I feel very comfortable on, and I sort of broach onto other areas as well. But I think I try just to sort of focus on one thing at a time, because when I try and overload it all, and the thing is, I tend to sort of put myself out there quite a lot in regards to Facebook and my groups and everything. But there are also times when I just curl up and I go quiet for a couple of days, and it's okay to do that. You know, people aren't looking at their computer screens thinking, hang on a minute, I haven't had a post from Michelle today, what's going on? You know, it's not like that. It's okay just to step back every now and again and just be able to ground yourself and center yourself and actually just bring yourself back to why you're doing what you're doing. Because I feel when we're in that chasing mode and we're trying to attract people, we can sometimes lose sight of why we're doing what we're doing and how it makes us feel, if that makes sense. And so I always feel I'm self-employed for a reason, because I want the freedom to be able to do what I want to do. If I get trapped into doing things I don't want to do, then there's no point in me being self-employed. I might as well go and work for a boss and have the reliability of, you know, healthcare and all that kind of thing. So everything I do is what I enjoy. So I learned very quickly there were certain things, like I don't do many smoking cessations. I can do them and I can do them well, but I don't particularly enjoy them. And so there's certain things that I know, and I will pass them on to other people that I know do enjoy them and do them well. And I think that's really important as well, because I think when we're first trying to build up our business, we almost don't want to say no to anybody, and we take everything on, we take every opportunity, and it can sometimes become quite overwhelming, and sometimes we don't know which direction we want to go in, and we spread ourselves too thin. But I think slowly what happens is, like, yeah, try it, and if it doesn't float your boat, then you know to put that one aside, because there are plenty of other areas you can cover. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've never put down on paper what my business plan was. I mean, my goodness, if I ever had to go to a bank for a business loan and they asked me to describe my business, I'd be like, well, I'm the sparkly fairy that lives in the cabin, you know, that gets stuff done. But yeah, you know, but it's my clients that actually tell the story of the cabin for me, and I don't need to anymore, because that's what it's all about. It's how they feel, and they want to refer their mum, their dad, their grandma, their children. And I work a lot with children as well, and they're the most tricky clients. Because you're working sort of double as hard, because you're working with the parent as well. But yes, you know, it is an amazing experience. But what I wanted to say about the membership group is, oh my goodness, I wish I'd done this ages ago. But then again, I would have had no reason to have done it, because I'd have been in the cabin. So this lockdown has actually been amazing for me, because it's made me come right out of my comfort zone, do stuff that I would never have even attempted or thought about or felt the need to do. But in doing so, not only have I reached new clients, I've met new therapists, learned new ways of working, and, you know, friendships, talking to people in different countries, which I just love, absolutely love. So it feels like the walls of my cabin have come down, and the magic is just like coming out all over the place. And now, you know, the sky's the limit. So I don't, you know, people, well, before it was only if people could travel to me, and I did have people traveling up to 2 hours to come and see me. But it was, you know, it was just small in my cabin. And so now I get to share the way that I work to lots of people. And this space in my membership group, the energy that we create is as magical as in the cabin, if not more, because I see everybody comes. And so like in your membership group, people are generally sort of sat up, aren't they? Ready to listen and learn. And in my membership group, they're all snuggled in their beds. And they have blankets and all the lights are dimmed. So I'm really bright on my screen and everybody else is really dimmed. And they were like, hi, I've had a really tough day today. And like, it's just beautiful, this energy, and they're saying it as well. And I think because they're comfortable in their own homes, they haven't had to put makeup on, they haven't had to put that face on. I think when you're struggling with anxiety, that whole process of coming out of your house, of having to go out into public, to go and, you know, come and see somebody, is taken away. They can just rock up and just have a blanket over them, and that's really helped. So I have clients that are agoraphobic, that don't leave the house, that are now able to access, you know, in a really affordable way, this membership group. So every week I touch on a topic, and it could be something very, very general, but I tend to give like a few little hints. And the most powerful one, I did it last night, and I talked to everybody, and I asked them, what have you gained the most from doing? We've been doing this for about 7-8 weeks now. I've got 18 people in my group, and I wanted to know, you know, what things have stuck with you, because I'm doing this podcast tomorrow and I'd just like to know. And they said it was one of the very first things that I said to them, which is I said before you get out of bed, and it was from Tiny Habits, the book Tiny Habits, where they said about putting your feet on the floor, your hands on your chest, and just thinking today's going to be an amazing day. And they all did it. And that's all I give them, just one tiny thing each week. So last night I said, start brushing your teeth with your different hand. It's those little changes, and they start feeding back the differences, and they are really noticing the differences as well. So I love it. And now, where I thought I was just going to do this until the cabin opens, this has now become a really important part of my business. I'm not giving it up. I'm not letting it go. So this now, I was like, every Thursday night is going to be my membership group. So I work the cabin around it. So that's exciting.
I love this so much. I feel like you're just opening up possibilities for so many people, and this is absolutely brilliant. I will make sure that we link below where people can come and join that group if they want, because I want to join after listening to this. And so we'll link to your Wonders of Wellness group. So you have a main site, and then that funnels in like your main group, and then that funnels into a paid group, and the paid group is where
so they wouldn't be able to join that group until like they'd gone through my website and signed up, and then I give them the link to the private group, and then I show them around, because they can access like audio hypnos from a website page on my website. So they have all these different things. And other times I gave them a 10-minute little meditation, and I just WhatsApp it to them, and they love that. So it's just like a little extra. And I try and voicemail them quite a lot as well, and just check in with everybody. So it's very personal, and they all get priority on booking with me as well, and discounts off the cabin. So a lot of them are now coming to the cabin that have never been to the cabin before to come and have Reiki. So I've actually gained them in another way as well. So I'll actually get to see some of them physically. So that's been really nice. But yeah, the main free group is where predominantly everybody is. But I do sort of every now and again say, well, this is what I'm running this week. So last night I had 2 extra people that paid me just a one-off small fee to join just one session. So people have got the option to do that. And then from that, they tend to then join the membership. So it's really nice just for them to just dip their toe in and just think, is this for me? So that's quite nice as well.
I love that. So if a person is listening who can't access the notes, because a lot of times I'll listen to these podcasts in my car and I'll think, oh, I'm going to go look later, and then I forget. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
So they can connect over to me personally on my personal page, or the Wonders of Wellness. Just remember the Wonders of Wellness. So that will bring up my business page, the Wonders of Wellness Together, which is my free group. And the membership group, like I said, would have to be signed up and talk to me, because I like to know who's coming into that one.
I love that.
Because you have to keep a good mix of people. So they'd have to sign up and start the payment roll to be able to get the link then to get the group. But the Wonders of Wellness Together is the group, and you can come in and join that one, and it's all topical things about being well, and just looking after your mental health really on a day-to-day level, and actually being awareness, and just conversations, getting people thinking as well, which is really nice. And I think as well, although there's 630 people in there, you tend to get the core of people that like to interact. But don't ever forget that there are people that watch and are silent, but they're still getting that same benefit and value. So if anybody has got a group and they feel that only 2 or 3 people are engaging, everybody's probably seeing it. They just don't, they're just not one of the sort of people that want to comment, but they are still getting value. And I know that from people that have booked with me that have said, I've been following you for years, but I thought, I've never seen their face, you know, I've never seen their name, they've never commented, but suddenly they're the ones that are ready to pay money to get the therapy from you. So
yeah, I love that. And you had even mentioned that you had followed me for a couple of years, and I just became acquainted with you in my, I think it was the October 3-day video challenge.
Yes.
And then there was someone on my call. I just did a call yesterday, a training for my magic words protocol. And there was a gentleman I've never seen before. He just popped in from out of the woodwork. And I'm so, you know, it's really cool to know there are people out there that you're impacting. And you and I both are words of affirmation people. We like that validation. And so it can be hard knowing that we don't know they're there, but just know that they're there. Shells, in closing, I think we have about 10 minutes here, but I would really love to hear if you have any additional insights to share as far as how this has impacted your personal life. You mentioned that your mom has early onset Alzheimer's and your son has some developmental disabilities that have been really hard. How has your work spoken to those places?
It's everything that I've learned. I've predominantly learned to help my son, and it has given me some added insight as well. And I very much realised as well that there's certain things that I can help people with, and then there's certain conditions that aren't going to help so much as well. And I've had to step back and actually acknowledge that there's only so much that I can do. With my mum, I suppose the support that I have to give to my dad is probably the most impactful one. But my mum is somebody that is very much in the moment. She is in a state of mindfulness all the time, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And when I do treatments for her in the cabin, she just lies there and goes, oh, this is wonderful. So it's a wonderful way of being able to, they're so supportive of me, and they, you know, with the hours that I was working, they were like mucking in and just helping out. And I just think it's just everything I'm learning, I'm using for them as well. And it is benefiting them, because I know how to, if somebody comes to me to the cabin and they're a carer, I know what that's like. But I can also then feed that back to dad, you know, that there's sort of other people out there. So it's all interconnected. And I just think it's wonderful with my mum, because she's in the state of mindfulness where she was always a career person that suffered from a lot of stress. And where she is now is probably a place that all of us would strive to be. And although Alzheimer's has taken a lot from me and mum, it's left her with this most beautiful outlook on life. And I carry that with me all the time, which is why I strive to just try and enjoy every moment and just not stress the small stuff, really. And so I like her to feel proud of me, and she likes it when I'm happy. She doesn't know the ins and outs of what I do, but when she comes in, she feels the energy, and she knows when I'm bouncing about and I'm feeling really happy about something, and she gets excited too. So in regards to what keeps me going, what keeps me striving, is that my mum can't remember anything that she ever learned. She doesn't remember anything. She's just here in the now. So by doing the book and just doing everything that I'm doing, I want to touch and reach as many people as I can, because even if I, at any point, if I go the same way as my mum, like my grandma, and you know, that, and I hope there's no reason why I should, but it's something that I carry, that hopefully I've touched enough people that they can carry on sharing that, you know, and into their lives, even if I can't remember it. I don't know if that sort of comes across or sounds, but yeah, that just keeps me striving, I think.
That's so beautiful. I'm so happy that I asked that question, because I learned so much just in that. Shells, this has been absolutely amazing. You have exceeded all expectations, and I'm so grateful to you doing this. I know
Okay, I'll show you something. That's all I wrote on my notes. I don't know if you can see it. It says breathe and speak slowly.
I love that. And sometimes
as technical as I get.
and I come into these podcasts, I usually explain at the start with the guest, as we did today, I just want to have a free-flowing conversation and see what surfaces. And I think if you and I had come in with an agenda, some of the nuggets and some of the transformational magic that happened during this call never would have happened. So I think when we come in and we hold a space, and for me, I'm holding a space for the listener, and I'm gathering so much magic for myself. And I hope that this has been valuable for you, just to hear your own words out of your mouth, showing you how far you've come, what a difference you've made in the world. I am so grateful to you for being here, Shells. Thank you.
Oh, I've loved it. Thank you so much. It's one of those moments, when you feel like, oh, wow, I'm going to be buzzing all day today now.
I'm so happy to hear it. All right, so for those of you listening, thank you so much for being here. You are here with us in our hearts. We are holding this space for you. I hope you loved this conversation. Please reach out to Shells. Michelle Pattenden, I follow her Wonders of Wellness Together group, and I have learned so much from her. So I highly recommend you do the same. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
I'm so grateful you've listened all the way to the end. What is one tiny action step you'll take now based on an aha moment you got during the podcast? Maybe that life-changing action step is to come accept the gift I have for you at theimpostermonster.com. Head there right now to get your powerful hypnosis audio, The Answer Room. That lets you make important decisions and get crystal clear about your next step forward on this path of purpose in your one great and precious life.